Hello everyone, my name is Arjun Bhadwaj, and today in this video, I'll tell you about localhost back address. So basically, localhost is the host within your machine, where server is also your machine and client is also your machine, where both working of the server and client is done by your machine. So there is a specific IP address for the loopback, and I'll tell you all these things in detail further in this video. So let's start. First, I'll tell you about the basics of localhost or loopback address. So, localhost is a network interface that allows a device to send network packet to itself. As I told you, that here your server is also your machine and client is also your machine. So, when you send a packet to yourself, you can test the packet whether the network is established or not, whether the packets are sending or not correctly. Then it is represented by the IP address 127.0.0.1 and the name localhost. Whenever you see this 127 in the IP address, it means that it is a loopback address. Localhost is used to establish a connection with itself, and this is helpful for testing and troubleshooting purposes. Using ping 127.0.0.1, we can check loopback frames within the computer. So let's do an exercise for this. Open your terminal and write ping 127.0.0.1. There you can check how the connection has been established and how loopback frames are passing. So from this you could know how the things has been done. Moving further, now let's discuss what are the uses of localhost or loopback address. So uh, as I told you already, this loopback address or localhost are used for the testing purposes. So let's discuss this in detail. For testing network services, developers can test client server applications by running both the client and server on the same machine, using a loopback address to simulate network communication. Suppose a developer is testing a code and where a code of client and server. So before hosting it to a server, to a remote server, he have to test it whether it is working or not, whether network established or not. So in this case, he will use localhost to test its website or a code or a simple client server code. Then it is also used by an administrator to check or to troubleshoot the network issues within the machine without moving to the next external networks. So troubleshoot network issues. Network administrators can use the loopback interface to verify whether network services on a device are functioning correctly without involving external networks. Then here we have local development and debugging. As I have told you already, web developers also use this local host or loopback for testing purpose, whether their website is working or not, where server is also their machine and the client is also their machine, so that they can know how their website is working on the machine and how user can see their website. So web developers, for example, can run a web server on their machine and access it through the loopback interface to test and debug their applications without deploying them to a remote server. Because of this, they can save a lot of money and time and upload a very good product to a remote server by before testing it uh, so that they can test it and the result will be good. So this is how there are some uses of localhost and loopback addresses. Thank you so much. I hope you understand what are loopback or localhost.